Good evening. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the East Bridgewater Planning Board for August 21st, 2023. Members here present this evening: Diane Phillips, Rachel Tedesco, John Lawler, Roy Gardner, Sherry Bates, myself, Kevin Riley. Got the meeting called to order at 7:02 p.m. The number of items to go through this evening. First item on the agenda is the approval of prior minutes. Those specifically for the meeting from July 17th, 2023. Assuming that everyone's had a chance to review them, Chair would entertain at this point a motion to waive the formal reading and accept the minutes in the form presented.
So moved.
I make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Gardner, seconded by Mr. Lawler.
I did that.
To so approve. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the approval of those minutes, July 17th, 2023, so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Record will reflect unanimous approval of the minutes. We have a public hearing scheduled for 7:15 p.m., it being a little bit before that at this point. We will go on to other pending matters. Mr. Carrara, Zero River Road Extension. This is a subdivision that was approved by the board at the meeting of July 17th. We did receive a letter from Environmental Partners dated August 18th with a final, basically a final report on the technical review. We did leave a condition, as I recall, in the approval that the applicant would need to satisfy any outstanding matters brought up by the environmental consultant, the engineering consultant, I should say. And by virtue of the letter of August 18th, it appears that with two modest exceptions, everything has been updated and concluded to the satisfaction of EP. Those couple of things that are still open would relate to the sort of administrative matters, the approval of a stormwater management permit, and an operations and maintenance plan. Given the condition that was left in the original decision, I don't know, Roy, you can tell me on past practice, I don't know that there's any reason that we would have to specify those conditions in any kind of a modification of the original decision. And I think they would just be noted for the record.
Yeah, I think the original decision stands on its,
Yep.
you know, as it was written.
So, Mr. Carrara, if you have anything that you would want to add at this point, happy to have you do that. Otherwise,
No, sir. If the board's ready to sign the plans, we're all set.
okay. Then, did we not? We just didn't sign the plans, is that correct, Ellen? We entered the decision, we didn't sign the final plan? Is that right at the last hearing?
Yeah, that is correct.
That's correct.
Because we still had a couple of minor changes to make to satisfy environmental department, so.
Have we received the notification from the town clerk of the expiration of the appeal period yet?
Yeah, we did, I believe, right? Yes. So I believe we're in a position then to sign off on the plan. So Chair would entertain a motion so to do.
So moved.
Motion is made by Mr. Gardner to sign the subdivision plan for River Road Extension. Second to the motion. Seconded by
Second
Mr.
that.
Lawler. Further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor, so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is a unanimous vote. Thank you, Mr. Carrara.
Thank you very much.
Very effective presentation, as usual.
We will get the Mylars up to you ASAP.
Very nice, and we will get them signed ASAP.
Great. Thank you very much.
Very welcome.
Everybody have a great night.
You too.
It is still not 7:15, so let's skip around a little bit on the action and discussion items. Tower Heights, Southridge Drive, a partial lot release. I believe we left at the last meeting that we would approve the release of any remaining funds in the bond account, provided that the applicant had provided all necessary documentation to the select board to allow for the way to become a public way ultimately. And I believe that the proper deed and so forth has been tendered to the Board of Selectmen, Select Board, so that everything is in order.
That's Strathmore.
Strathmore, sorry, beg your pardon. Strathmore. So that with respect to Strathmore Road, then, we would be in position to go forward with that bond release and so advise the Select Board of that action. Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'll make the motion that we release all remaining surety bond accounts for Strathmore Road extension.
So the motion is made by Mr. Gardner to release all further, any remaining surety bond amounts, and so advise the Select Board and Town Treasurer of that action. Second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Ms. Tedesco. Further discussion?
Just for clarity, that's a tri-party agreement in this case. So we'll have to notify the other two parties. Obviously, we know that we're releasing it. The bank will need to know that, and the developer will need to know that. So I believe we have the tri-party release agreement set with all three of those parties in the agreement listed at the top of the letter, saying we're going to release all surety bonds. Which effectively what that does is that allows the bank to release the account back to the original account holder.
Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Record reflect a unanimous vote in approval of the release of funds on Strathmore Road. Tower Heights, let's go back to that. So Tower Heights was the,
So on Tower Heights,
Partial
Mr.
lot
Lopez
release.
is looking for a second lot release.
right, and,
And the agreement we had with him is for the first couple of lots, if he placed $50,000 with the town treasurer's bond, would release one lot for each $50,000.
and I believe that the town treasurer has received that additional,
I think we have received the
Funds?
second $50,000,
so there would be,
so given that, I'll make a motion that we release the second lot, and to avoid the confusion that happened the last time, I'll leave the lot number up to the office to determine, working with Mr. Lopez, because somehow we fuddled up the lot number the first time, so we'll let the office clarify that. Do we know for sure the lot number and the assigned address that he wants right now?
It is lot number 5, which will be 2 Southridge Drive.
Lot number 5,
2 Southridge Drive.
2 Southridge Drive? All right.
so the motion made by Mr. Gardner then is to approve for Tower Heights Phase 5, the release of Lot 5 from covenant, that is 2 Southridge Drive. Second to the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion is made by Mr. Gardner, seconded by Mr. Lawler. Further discussion on that motion?
And just that confirms that the road bond account should now have a balance of $100,000 in it before we give him that lot release document.
Okay, so if the office will make that confirmation that the appropriate monies are on deposit, we will be good to go. So on that motion, all those in favor so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Again, let the record reflect unanimous vote in favor of the release of Lot 5 to Southridge Drive. Okay, it being 7:15 by the chairman's watch, we have a public hearing with regard to Andres Towing, Mary Lou LLC, Property at 608 Spring Street, an industrial 1 zone. Applicant is seeking special permit and site plan approval. Sherry, if you would, please, on the legal notice.
East Bridgewater Planning Board notice of public hearing. The Planning Board of the Town of East Bridgewater will hold a public hearing on Monday, August 21st, 2023, at 7:15 p.m. in the Town Office Building, 175 Central Street, large second-floor conference room. The purpose of the hearing will be to review an application for special permit with site plan approval submitted by applicant. Owner of record, Mary Lou, LLC, Jacqueline Andrade. The applicant proposes to engage in used car sales as an accessory to the towing business currently being operated at property, maximum of 10 cars. The subject property is located at 608 Spring Street and consists of approximately 35,388 square feet. The zoning classification is industrial I1, and the lot is shown on East Bridgewater Assessors Map 33, Lot 18. The Planning Board, pursuant to Section 5K 2E, special permit allowed uses, and Section 13, site plan approval of the Town of East Bridgewater zoning bylaws and Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 40A, Section 11, seeks public input relative to this proposal. The plans are on file with the Planning Building Department and can be reviewed between the hours of 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Thursday, and Friday, 8:30 to noon.
Thank you, Sherry. So the way we'll handle this is that we'd ask the applicant to come forward, get a presentation from the applicant, take any comments that the interested parties in the audience might have, and then following that, a discussion among the members of the board, determine what action or not we will take. So, welcome. You gotta identify yourself for the record.
What was that, sir?
I'd say if you will identify yourself.
Oh, my name
for the
is
record.
Miguel Andrade.
Tell us what it is you'd like to do.
So, we run a towing business out of the address, and we come across a few cars to potentially sell, and I want to do it the right way and sell a couple cars.
So this would be at your existing location. You've identified some,
Got a-
some space apparently on the right-hand side of the premises, as you would
Yes.
look at it from the street. That would be for used cars for sale at that location.
Yes,
I've seen that.
got photos here. I just took it.
Take a look at them. Thank you.
Seen
Thank you.
And you would be anticipating that most of the business would actually be from sales on premises, or would you be doing work online, as some people do at this point?
On premises,
On premises sales?
yeah, a little bit online, but mostly on premises.
Anything else you want to add at this point?
No,
Okay. Anyone in the audience who's interested and would like to speak either in favor or not with respect to this application? Yes, madam. Come forward and identify yourself for the record, please. Sure, so we can hear you.
Good evening, my name's Jane Berger, and I'm here from the Mia Meadows Townhouse Association, and I'm a member of the board, so I'm here on behalf of the 6 families that live there. And I have actually a few questions. I called the town, and they suggested that I come to the meeting. We expressed concern about the number of vehicles that are currently on the lot and then adding to it. I tried to get clarification what the current permitting for the towing business allowed in terms of the number of vehicles. Unfortunately for us, our living room windows look at the vehicles. And now in the summertime, when there's all trees in bloom, it's no issue, but in the winter, it's not the most pleasant thing to look at. Okay.
So just for reference, if I can just ask you and
Yeah.
just jump in here for a second. You are next to or across the street from? As I'm looking at the
If you look,
entrance.
the back of their home and the lot, we are,
Behind.
we butt up.
Gotcha.
And our townhouses face the lot.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
So anyway, when I called to inquire, the woman said she would check and get back to me, and when we spoke a second time, she, because what I specifically asked her was, under
trust me, though.
the current permitting for the towing business, how many vehicles are permitted? And she could not find permitting. Now, she said it may have been grandfathered in from a previous owner. But she suggested I come here with my questions. I mean, we just want to voice our concern about the number of vehicles that are there. There's quite a lot right now. So that's our main concern. It's just a bit of aesthetics.
There is a lot of vehicles, but they were all in the premises. They're in outside.
No, I know.
But you-
Right, yeah,
I know what you're saying. Your living room in the wintertime, there's no trees.
right.
We're just gonna have to. I'm gonna have to work on that. Put a fence up or.
I mean, something like that. Probably. Robbie,
Yeah.
what do you think of? Robbie is one of my neighbors.
I'm
Yeah.
Ravi, I'm neighbors to,
Just again, name for the record, please.
I'm Ravi Janjanam, and I live in the same townhouses next to Jane. And yeah, I just came along with her. So, yeah,
I mean, do you think like
I-
fencing would be a good
yeah,
solution?
maybe not, I'm not sure.
But at the moment, I just brought in a machine there to clean up the yard. The guy was supposed to come today so I can have pictures. You know what I'm saying? But he didn't make it. But it's gonna be done this week. We're cleaning it all up, making it look.
I can't see, but it sounds like you're expanding, cutting down some trees.
Yes, cleaning up.
You know, so expanding into the wooded area there. We just want, you know, that's really our concern. The woman told me to take pictures. I took a couple pictures from the road. I wasn't gonna go trespassing.
Oh,
just
you
so
can anytime.
so you
I have
could
no problem there.
See the number of
Those are the-
vehicles there.
Is that in the pictures that?
Those are his pictures.
Oh, I see.
I just have a couple
Okay.
that
Okay,
I don't either.
thank you.
Anybody's
pictures,
welcome. You can come in anytime.
I don't,
Okay. We appreciate your thoughts. Roy, do you have a sense of history on this and what the?
Yeah, but one of the problems ongoing with towing businesses is that my understanding now is that the state has required for many years to have a maximum number of unregistered vehicles on the site, and that all towed vehicles that belong to someone else that are towed under some license, whether it's the police department, state police, whoever
Yes.
you tow for, requires records be kept of those, so. The question I have was kind of the same thing. There's a lot of vehicles on the site, and there's no way of knowing what those are. So, my understanding is we're asking for a used car license for 10 additional vehicles, because I'm assuming the vehicles there are some other part of the business,
Yeah.
since there's no used car license there. So we need a better definition of the existing license and how many vehicles are you allowed to have on that actual premises. Because there has to be a number defined somewhere according to my read of state law.
I mean,
You're a legal towing business, you just can't keep towing vehicles and put them on the lot.
I think you can.
Not under state law, you can't. You've got a maximum number of vehicles you're allowed to have on a site under state law,
I have to look
especially
into that.
vehicles without unregistered vehicles. That's a problem. Because no one is allowed to have more than 2 unregistered vehicles on their lot at any time. That's a state law.
At a residence, right?
Unregistered vehicles. That's true everywhere. any site without some additional license that defines how many other vehicles you can have.
Huh?
And it's not clear to me based on, it's a difficult read to read the towing requirements because they're all over the place. There's a bunch of different sections of state law. But the selectmen don't seem to have any idea as to what the requirements are for a towing license and how many vehicles you can have on the site.
Yeah.
Because the last time I looked at that, which was a week or so ago, I don't see any way you get 10 clear spaces marked without interfering with something else there.
I think the other thing too is that the plan obviously shows 6
Well,
spaces.
that's-
So that's,
That's, one of my notes was the things we gotta determine is actually the number of vehicles you want for sale, which was said originally in the application, 10. I don't see where you're gonna fit 10 spaces that aren't gonna interfere with what's already on the site right now.
There's room there for 10.
And the other thing you need to do is define in which one of those buildings you're gonna keep the records for the used car business.
Got an office there.
Which building is the office actually in?
The garage.
Okay.
this building?
Yes. I had, when they gave us the towing, gave us the okay for the towing, the state police came down, did the inspection, looked at all the logs. He cleared me to go. He didn't tell me how many cars I have to have there, none of that. State police came down, he actually came down last week again, they do a yearly checkup. Everything's clear.
Maybe we need to check with the state police and to see what their limitations are, but.
You said the machine, what is the purpose of the machine? Are you buying something, or to clean up, or?
I am cleaning up some of the cars,
Yep.
scrapping some of them, and putting down millings to surface the lot. Clean up.
Oh, chip seal, the, yeah?
Millings, yeah,
Yeah.
asphalt.
Yeah.
Chipped asphalt.
Okay. Is it a crusher?
No, it's a backhoe.
Oh, okay.
No.
Ladies?
I have a question, just being new to the planning board, so, excuse my ignorance, but the handout that that we have in our package about industrial use, an industrial district, that's section K, industrial 1. What is, under number 3, specifically prohibited uses? I was looking at B. And is this in reference to this application? I just didn't know. Specifically prohibited uses, storage or occupancy of mobile homes, camper, trailers, inoperative or unlicensed motor vehicles or products, materials, or vehicles not accessory to the allowed uses in the district. Was that distributed to us related to this application? And that was like in the middle of the package.
Yeah, it is related to this application, and another one, actually, that's been applied for.
So, I think, Rachel, that you raise an interesting question. I have looked at that. I clearly didn't write it. I don't think Roy, we were involved in that. So I don't think any of us did.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily expressed in the clearest, perhaps, way possible, but I think that it does speak to the idea that there was some limitation intended or some exclusion intended for these types of, motor vehicles
Yes.
on sites in this particular sort of district.
Yeah.
So, I would, personally, I would take the position that I'm not sold on the premise that this is not a non-permitted use in the district. And I know, or at least I think I know, that, in the past, sort of the practice has been, if you look at section,
This was section 5,
no, just one second.
Page
here, let me
I was looking at page 52 in the, does that help?
So I think the problem we run into, there's a specific section in the bylaw that says that you can't have unlicensed motor vehicles there unless they're an accessory to an allowed use in the district. Right now, what you're doing is not technically an allowed use in the district unless you can demonstrate it existed before 1981, I think, when the industrial district changed its verbiage.
So you're saying I can't have unregistered vehicles in the lot?
Yes. That's why I asked the question to begin with.
But I'm a tow company.
Understand that, but why are the vehicles staying on the lot?
Storage?
They're not yours.
Storage.
Well, whose vehicles are they?
They're customers.
They must be titled to somebody, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all storage vehicles. They ain't mine. They're vehicles that got towed in, and they're in there for storage.
So under our bylaw, that's not a permitted use unless you've got a special permit.
Me, I'm not not too smart with it, but I'll figure it out. But there's some,
So the other guy in town that stores a lot of vehicles,
yeah.
which is up on Route 18, Bobby D. Motors, has a special permit that allows him to do that.
Really? Okay.
He's in the industrial district. He came in and was granted a special permit because he realized he can't have a whole bunch of unregistered vehicles on his lot. Now, he also has a used car permit similar to what you're requesting.
Okay.
So this has come up before in court with another use in town, to my understanding, some decade or so ago with Paul Wolf Motors.
Yeah.
Paul Wolf Motors tows.
Yeah, I know him.
He's got a specific fenced-in tow area where he's required to keep all of the towed cars.
Which that's my my area is all fenced in.
But Paul Wolf's cars are supposed to be tagged, licensed, registered vehicles that he's towing for either the town or the state.
We
He's
also-
not supposed to have unregistered vehicles unless they're on his used car license.
We
Why does someone ask you to tow a vehicle? I mean, if someone wants to
Registered,
store a
unregistered.
vehicle, they can take it to a storage area, or have you tow it to a storage area. It shouldn't be towed to your site. That's a problem according to the bylaw.
Like I said, I really don't know, but you got me a little confused here. But I thought I was good to go.
Well, the problem is if we leave it the way it is right now, you have no limitation on how many unregistered vehicles you can have on your lot. That doesn't work under any zoning bylaw in any town, especially in our town, the way this is worded in the industrial district. So I think what we need to do is, I'll make a motion that we continue this public hearing until our next meeting in September.
Okay.
We'll try and review some of these issues with both the Board of Selectmen, state police if necessary, to try and figure out, how to resolve this and what, because my understanding under the towing license is you don't get to keep unregistered vehicles on your site.
You do.
Well, the selectmen in court were told that they were right when they told Paul Wolf he had to get rid of about 15 unregistered vehicles, because he had 15 vehicles over his used car count on his license.
Pretty sure you can, but if we gotta redo the meeting, we can redo it.
So I think we need to get some clarification from
Yeah.
whoever the parties are that actually, and there's a bunch of different parties. Because the town police department could have him on the tow list, the state police can have him on the tow list, other towns can have him on the tow list.
Next one.
Police actually come down when I call them to verify vehicles.
Well, but they're all that they're gonna do is verify there's a title and who owns that, right?
And it's not stolen yet. They know it's in the tow lot, so like I said, I'll get more information. for you.
We'll ask town council to look into it, that's
Yeah,
probably the best route to go.
Can I just get the schedule of the meetings for October?
Next month, September.
I'll second that, Roy.
Hang on.
You wanna hold it till October?
So for October, it's gonna be the first and third Monday in October.
October 2nd is our first October meeting.
So,
Have a second?
correct that you make a motion to continue to October 2nd?
I'll make the motion to continue to October 2nd,
7:15 PM.
first item on the agenda at 7:15 PM.
So a motion is made by Mr. Gardner to continue this matter for further investigation until October 2 at 7:15 PM. Is there a second?
I'll do that.
Motion is seconded by Mr. Lawler. Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of that motion to continue, so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed. Unanimous vote to continue. So basically what we'll do is we'll do our homework. You're welcome to come up with any information that you have additional to what you've given us tonight. Hopefully we'll come to a conclusion on October 2.
Whatever information we come up with, whether it be from the state police, local police, town council, we'll forward it to you as soon as we see it, so you know what's going on. Okay?
All right. Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Let's stick my agenda in there. Oh, there it is. No, that's not the agenda. I got it. Never mind. Still on island time.
That's what I'll be on. Okay. The next matter under action and discussion has to do with potential creation of an overlay zoning district on Thatcher Street. This is property that is owned by, I believe the entirety of it is owned by two LLCs, East Thatcher and West Thatcher Street LLC. This is essentially Everett's Auto location on the East Bridgewater Brockton line. And they are proposing an overlay district, which would basically reflect the current state of affairs on those premises, that they are in fact a scrap and
I believe they have both a Class 2 and a Class 3 license.
salvage yard type
So
of.
let me, we had a,
What's a track, right?
we had a session before the track group, probably a month ago now. But in any case, basically what it comes down to, it has to do with the way the banks handle commercial financing for businesses. They want to see businesses, especially as they get into the order of magnitude of it, wherever its auto parts is. They're basically a national business today. They ship stuff all over the country. They're a very big business, locally retail as well. Obviously, I say obviously, but anyone that's gone down and looked around down there in the last, I would say, 8 months to a year has noticed a marked improvement with the additional businesses they bought, cleaned up. There's been a significant change down there within the last year. Their business has always been tidy and well-run, but the other businesses around them that they have purchased over the last year or so are now in that category. And the presentation they made to us basically says, overly simplified, that it's very difficult to get commercial financing at a site where you're not under what's considered an approved use. Now, I think the concern is that leaves maybe too many discretionary things to town boards and things like that that can get in the way of business, and then therefore risk the financing that the banks or whoever the finance people are, not necessarily banks, there's lots of kinds of financing, but.
So,
The idea would be, based on what was discussed at the track meeting, that we would fine tune the article, the proposed article, which I believe the template for the proposed article comes from what was done for Brockton. I think it's very close to what we could do, and we'd fine tune that to what we think fits the town, have our necessary public hearings, and then go to it with at our next annual town meeting. Because I think, as I told the applicant in the track meeting, past practice for the better part of 2 decades now is that we don't do zoning changes at special town meetings. Main reason being that special town meetings typically don't have quorum requirements for non-financial items, and if only a small number of people show up, a small number of people can defeat the two-thirds vote required on a zoning article. So you don't get a cross-section vote of the town, if you will.
So let me ask, is there anyone here? Attorney Burke, perhaps? There you go.
Thank you very much. Jim Burke, attorney at law with offices at 48 North Pearl Street in Brockton, Massachusetts, and I have had the pleasure of representing Roy and Tom Andrade for a number of years. As Mr. Gardner identified, they run an exceptional operation. They recently purchased, over the past year, substantial land from Mr. Clayton, who had operated a business both on the east and west side of Thatcher Street. They've acquired that property, and correctly, they are in the Thatcher Street West LLC and Thatcher Street East LLC. The intent is to run the same tidy shop with an overlay district on the land that's recently been acquired that is somewhat multi-zoned. And Mr. Gardner was absolutely accurate. What they are is pre-existing non-conforming uses under the zoning ordinance of, or rather the statutory 40A. While they are allowed to continue to exist, under certain conditions, they're impacted with their ability to change or expand that are subject to review that makes it extremely difficult to secure commercial financing for a very large operation. Banks like to see structure. And that's essentially what we're seeking to do, is to create an overlay district to allow the existing uses to be maintained as they are. However, to create an overlay to allow the proposed uses that are consistent with the existing operations. And that's the request.
So as I understand it, the boundaries that are being requested for the overlay, it's multiple parcels, and would basically butt directly up to the Brockton property line, that, if I understood the track meeting correctly, they've already adopted that? Have they already adopted that?
It's been 2016, and I represented them
Okay.
in the process, yes.
So that would basically put the entire Everett's parcels together under pretty much the same language.
And this is something we discussed at a prior meeting too, right?
We touched on it just briefly,
Okay.
but the major discussion we had on it was a track where we actually had the proposed article in front of us.
So, other comments from other members before I say anything?
Nope.
Barry? So, conceptually, I have no issue with what you're trying to do. I think, as Roy is talking about, trying to fine tune this a little bit, my questions would sort of run along the following. Number one, the need for a height of 5 stories or 60 feet. The potential requirement of a buffer where any of the subject land abuts residential premises. The size of signage, those are enormous, I think. That would probably be it, those 3 items or 4 items.
So those hit on the ones that I kind of...
I don't see fatal flaws in any of those.
This is good.
I'm sure they can be resolved.
Okay.
We have 2 buildings in town. We used to only have 1, but we now have 2 buildings in town that are considered under industrial standard high-rise manufacturing storage buildings. And one is the Shaw's building on Laurel Street. The second one is the new one that's being built off of Route 18, and those are 30-something feet. So that a 60-ish something feet is
A little bit.
kind of out of
We can
scale.
work with reasonable regulation.
So what I think we'd like to do is the board would like to work on that, come up with those 2 or 3 things I think we need to tweak a little, and get them back to you.
Appreciate it. That would be
Along the way, at some point, we'll schedule a public hearing so the town can get some input into that. We'll notify the selectmen officially that we're planning on a zoning article for annual town meeting.
And just so that, Mr. Burke is not caught unawares on anything, and does anybody else have any particular issues with anything in there, in the proposal, or with the proposal in general? I think,
No.
something, I think that, what Roy has expressed and what Attorney Burke has has confirmed, with respect to the difficulties of financing, under the current status, that's real. So I certainly, as I say, have no conceptual issue with it, so. Assuming not, we'll go in that direction and hopefully have something for the next meeting that, can then be forwarded to Attorney Burke for his review and, as you say, hopefully a submission for the Springtown meeting.
Okay.
Sounds good?
Exceptional, thank you.
Okay.
Thank the board for its time.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Next item on our action agenda is Daisy Lane. So you recall last time, actually, Mr. Burgess is here, so Mr. Burgess, why don't you, actually, before I say anything, we'll let you say anything.
Hi, I'm Scott Burgess, Newview Homes. I guess when Environmental Partners too, when they address me, I think they think I'm ATL, because his name is Scott Burgess too, but I'm Newview Homes. Every time they address me, so I just figured I'd let you know that. No big deal. I've met him before, nice guy. But anyway, there was the report that was done by Environmental Partners, and there was a handout for a little rebuttal from my engineer. I just figured it would be better in his form, and I believe that potentially, Mr. Rowley, you had been there, and the same thing with Mr. Garner, you'd been at the job site recently. So the most recent rebuttal letter was at 4 o'clock. I believe Ellen had sent, had given a copy to you folks, Candy. And it just addresses a majority of the things that were on that list that have been taken care of.
So if I could, Mr. Chairman, I think at this point, we actually are holding an updated tri-party agreement in excess of $200,000. That agreement has more than enough money to cover those items. I don't believe there's any items left that were causing the problem that we saw previously with
Yeah, I think the biggest problem was the fact that the two other basins had not been yet installed, and we
They
had the
hadn't been fully
mounding and,
connected and all
connected up
piped
and
in.
so forth, so that's all been done.
So that's all
according
been
to what I
done at this
understand.
point, and I did look at that. So that's ready to go, so I think there's obviously, it's a subdivision under construction, there's ongoing work to be done. My personal preference and past practice has always been that we allow the applicant and the applicant's engineer to sort through the opinion pieces.
Sure.
We're not gonna get into the middle of that debate, because we're not engineers up here.
Oh, no, not a problem whatsoever.
But we understand there's, let's say, some slight differences of opinion. But that'll get worked out by the engineers. But I think at this point, I think, given the fact that the two basins in the Phase 2 section now are operating pretty much as designed and are connected appropriately, I think I can make a motion to release the remaining lots for full release on the Phase 2 of the
For building permits.
building permits. I think there's at least, is it 7?
8 more.
It's 8. The remaining 8 lots in Phase 2 for building permits, giving them full release based on the bond that we're now holding for over $200,000 in the tri-party agreement.
So the motion by Mr. Gardner is to allow the release of the remaining lots for purposes of issuance of building permits at Daisy Lane, given the work that's been done, and the bond that, the tri-party agreement that has already been entered and is in effect. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Lawler. Further discussion?
Well, for clarification, it should be full release of the lots, which would allow sale to third parties.
I'm sorry, okay. For all purposes.
Yes.
That's what I said, wasn't it? Further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, so signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed? So voted.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, appreciate it. Have a good night.
Take care.
sorry.
She's the
Yeah.
town clerk.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so we'll have Katie Kavanaugh come on up. Our interim town clerk or?
Interim town
Interim
clerk,
town clerk, okay.
running in 2024.
There you go. Good luck.
So I was just coming because we had some confusion downstairs in the town clerk's office regarding the application for site plan approval. And we had talked with Ellen and Candy a little bit about it. And it had been recommended that we come to, or I come to the meeting to discuss the process. We do not receive them downstairs, and there was a question of whether or not we should be receiving them downstairs. And I don't, do you guys have any of the information, or?
I mean, so currently, with respect to anything but a site plan, those are received by the office, taken downstairs, stamped in. Yes, okay.
Some of the direct instructions, I don't know if it got put in your package. The instructions in the site plan say to send it to the town clerk, and then there's a note saying don't send it to the town clerk. And then Katie brought up a good point, I believe it was Katie. There's no appeal period, there's no notifying of butters, so do we have to bring it to the town clerk? 'Cause that's usually the main reason.
All right, so the issue we have here, I think, is that, if I could, Mr. Chairman,
You could.
the issue we have here, that the site plan approval falls under Mass General Laws 40A, which is zoning. The problem we have with that was, we've always been advised by town council that under state law, all zoning filings, the official filing point in all towns is the town clerk's office. They're the ones who are the only ones who are allowed to give an official time and date stamp. Now, that comes into play because there's a date requirement in here that says we gotta do something within 25 days. So the way this is supposed to work is that the office will take the site plan application, the office being the planning building department, will take the site plan application and go through our list of things that have to be in there to make sure they've filed everything they're supposed to file as part of the site plan. Once we agreed that that's complete and they've paid whatever the fees are supposed to be, the plan should go to the town clerk's office for a time and date stamp. Now, my understanding from many town clerks ago
Yep.
is that everything they put a time and date stamp on, they keep at least one copy of for their records. There is no formal appeal period or formal second filing that says we've approved or disapproved it.
However, if you get to 26 days, then theoretically, Mr. Applicant can say, hey,
Yes.
constructively approved.
But the courts have repeatedly stated that filings under the zoning act, and under subdivision control for that matter too, under things the planning board is chartered to do under state law, the only legal place to get time and date stamps is the town clerk's office.
So here's the other, while we're discussing this, the other piece that concerns me, and that is what you're supposed to be filing. For lack of better description, I think that in recent times, we've been getting, just using an example, the hearing that we had this evening, okay? We have a couple of plans which go back to 1985 in one case, 1985, which have simply been, they happen to be site plans that were accurate at the time they were made, I assume. They have been marked up by an applicant and, crayon, ink, magic marker, whatever, and brought in to the planning board office for filing. I think we're at the point where the office needs to have discretion to say, I'm sorry, this does not meet the requirements, and we can't accept it. Roy, I don't know how you feel about that, but, I think that we get ourselves into trouble where we start relying on these, handcrafted things that are not reflective of current condition. And obviously, if that raises, and I don't mean to put you guys in the middle of anything that, you know, somebody gets agitated by that or what have you, and I'm not trying to pick people's pockets to get extra fees, to have plans crafted and so forth, because I'm sensitive to the fact that, you know, small businesses, you know, are looking to do these things as economically as possible. But at the same time, I think that we better protect ourselves and going forward where we have those things prepared. And if there's a problem with that, certainly a call to me or a call to Roy, I'm sure that we can, you know, take that burden away from you guys if somebody objects. My view. And just apropos of that as well, I had passed out tonight just something that I had shared with Roy earlier, which is an updated draft of a revision to the site plan bylaw, which hopefully the board would support after discussion and perhaps tweaking for, you know, submission and approval at a future town meeting as well, which just kind of gives us a little bit more punch into the site plan approval bylaw, which right now, again, my thought, very minimalist, doesn't give us a lot of guidance in certain areas, so.
And I also just wanted to mention, while I was here talking about site plans, I'm not sure if you guys have, this was what was given to me, the site plan rules and regulations, and on C, it does say town clerk for their input prior to scheduling an appointment. And the question came up, what would the town clerk give input on? And
You like it or don't you, Katie?
I know, right?
What do you think?
But I did want to mention that we do business certificates in our office, so we would be able to tell you. I know it had come up with one of the properties that there was a site plan on, that the actual applicant didn't have a business certificate to operate in town. Now, granted, it's just minor, but it, again, if somebody gets a business certificate, they have to go to all the departments to have them sign off on it. Well, they have to go to planning, building, treasurer, collector, and board of health. So it kind of, it's just one of those things that lets people know that this is happening in our town.
Not only that, I think that the other piece that it kind of impacts is something we discussed at the last meeting, and I think we'll have a little more discussion on tonight, which is the pass-through taxes and people applying for licenses and permits who are not current with real estate or other taxes, which, you know, as you say, it's an issue, and the opportunity to have that looked at, you know, however briefly, by somebody who says, you know, just goes down the checklist and says, no, clear, all paid, you know, or whatever, I think that's valuable. So I certainly would, you know, shame on me, I guess. I just actually came across what I think you have in front of you today for the first time. I've always looked at the bylaws, and, you know, who knew that there was a set of rules and regulations on the website that you know, speaks to site plan approval. But at the same time, if I tick down that list, I don't know how much of that currently gets done or currently is insisted upon in terms of what gets filed. And that's the other issue that I have. So I think that, you know, the whole process needs to be streamlined, and I certainly support the idea of a filing with the town clerk's office. As Roy indicated, it is a zoning matter, and there are certain time standards that are involved here, even though not an appeal period or anything like that. So that would be my 2 cents.
And I didn't know, Roy, if you wanted to, for the letter that was sent up with the date on it, if you wanted to have that sent out. I hadn't heard back anything.
At the approval for Knights and States?
That was from October, yeah. Is that date gonna be changed? It hasn't been yet.
So I think that date came from when it was actually voted. The date that the legal date that's important is the one you stamp on it when you get it.
Yeah.
Now, the applicant has no issue with timelines on this because he's appealing in the city of Brockton. So my thought is we should just go ahead and stamp it in. The way it read was correct, I believe, at the time it was done in October. there was an oversight in the office to some extent, in part because the applicant wasn't pursuing it, because he knows he's still a long way away from being able to build there. But I don't see any reason that can't get stamped in and everybody notified for the 21-day appeal period. That's really what we need to trigger next. Unless-
Yeah, so,
I don't think we want to change that date, because that was voted on by basically a different board than is sitting here tonight.
yeah, and the issue we also have is that town clerk isn't here.
Understood.
Yeah,
So when that letter is correct for in terms of the timeline that it was voted in.
okay.
If the applicant doesn't file an appeal because he's past it's beyond his timeline, and we now stamp it in, we still get the 21-day appeal period. So that's what we're trying to trigger now, because we want to notify the abutters that they have an appeal period, because they haven't been notified yet. So I think we should just go ahead and stamp it as is, because that matches up with the dates when it was done.
Do you think we could ask town council, just because I can't do anything with her name?
You mean you can't even date stamp it in?
It's addressed to somebody else.
It's just-
So we would
just
never be
change
able
it
to certify
Town
it.
clerk, Town of East Bridgewater.
We'd never be able to certify these. Okay.
I understand. So can we redo that and just put town clerk and leave the name off it? I mean, in a lot of towns, especially in this town, for the last couple of years, that's become a significant problem with a number of changes in different places, especially in this board. We've changed engineers in the middle of stuff, and names can get messy, so. Especially when it comes to actions under the zoning and subdivision control. Why don't we do that? Why don't we just address it to the town clerk?
I think as a matter of regular practice going forward, do it that way.
Yeah, we probably should do that.
Okay, so the process, that's kind of what we'll work out, but definitely when the applications are set for filing, they should go downstairs and should get a timestamp on the site plan approvals. Okay? Thanks, Katie.
We'll be prepared for him.
Okay.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great
See ya.
night.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we allow Mr. Snow to change the name of Angel Lane to Snow Lane.
Second that. I don't see any reason why we shouldn't.
Half a second.
Should I say so moved?
Just give me half a second.
Oh, okay. Just wondering why.
Yep. No worries. So,
Hold up was.
Hold that thought.
okay, so, with respect to Angier Lane, so back in June of 2021, there was an action taken by this board to vote the change of name of a one-lot subdivision, Angier's Way, to Snow Lane, and to endorse the Form A plan once it has been presented. And I believe that the plan has been presented, signed, and subsequently recorded. So, again, to I guess, confirm that vote. Mr. Gardner has made a motion to permit the name change
So
of
I'll
Andrew Lane.
modify my language very slightly to say
Okay.
that confirming our previous action, it's okay with the planning board to change the name Angel Lane to Snow Lane, as was previously noted in a prior meeting and has already been noted on a Form A plan.
Okay, so the motion is to confirm the prior action of the planning board with respect to the name change of Andrew Lane to Snow Lane, a one-lot subdivision. Second to that motion.
Seconded.
Seconded by Ms. Tedesco. Further discussion on the motion?
Nope.
Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Record will reflect the unanimous vote to confirm the prior action of the board. Whitmarsh Lane sidewalk. This, if I'm correct, is a situation where the project is basically at an end. It was a subdivision that Mr. Latola had purchased following its subdivision approval. Question comes on the necessity for a sidewalk in and around the cul-de-sac. And Roy, I believe that past practice is that the sidewalk would be terminable at the...
It terminates at the beginning
At
of
the
the
beginning
radius
of
of
the...
the cul-de-sac.
Okay, and
So
that's what's
there's no
sought here.
cul-de-sac around the
Sidewalk around the
actual
cul-de-sac.
Cul-de-sac, I'm
Yep,
sorry.
Yep.
And I confirmed with the DPW, that's been their requested past practice for some 15, 16 years now, so. So I'll make a motion that we notify the applicant of Whitmarsh Lane Phase 3 that the terminating the sidewalk at the beginning of the radius of the cul-de-sac is acceptable, and would ask them to complete the construction of that sidewalk and end it at that point.
So a motion is made to permit termination of the sidewalk on Whitmarsh Lane at the beginning of the radius on the cul-de-sac, and to otherwise, properly construct that sidewalk to that point. Second to that motion.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Mr. Lawler to the motion made by Mr. Gardner. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Record will reflect unanimous vote to approve the condition with respect to Whitmarsh Lane sidewalks. Zoning map changes. Mr. Gardner, we had a list. I think we've gotten to a point where, is it complete? Is it in need of further update?
Well, I was thinking that the plan would be to actually go over the map and be able to show it up on our screens
Okay,
in September.
okay. Perfect.
I need to get a new training session on how the screens are currently set up, because the way I was trained to use them before doesn't work. I tried them again, and the list of steps I was given and the stuff doesn't do what it used to do, so I gotta figure out what's going on. I know they've been worked on, and supposedly that's all been sorted out now, but I need to figure out how it was sorted out. So I'll have to come in and set up a session with the IT guy here to get that covered, so that we can run that from, or I can run that from the Chromebook I have.
Okay, so the motion would be to continue that discussion with regard to the zoning map changes to the meeting in September, the 18th. All those in favor, second to the motion?
Second that?
Motion is made by Mr. Gardner, seconded by Ms. Tedesco. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous vote to so continue.
All right, and if I could, Mr. Chairman, just for clarity, because I know there are some people watching this meeting, we do fully intend to go forward with two zoning districts, one of those zoning districts being a large area of land that's common with the Whitman Town line between Winter Street and Route 18, down probably to roughly in the vicinity of where that new industrial building is, the new warehouse, to be one of the high-density MBTA community zoning districts. All that I can say for now is what the MBTA zoning bylaw says, and that zoning district requires in average allowable density as an allowed use by right, without special permits, of 15 residential units per acre. The second area we're looking at is an area roughly bounded by Spring Street and some setback off of Route 18, down a fairly substantial distance down Spring Street. And it does include a portion of the downtown area, which includes the old Precise Engineering property, as well as the steel manufacturing company's property that was there, which is currently owned by the town of East Bridgewater. That's the second district. That would also have to allow, under the state law, a residential density of up to 15 units per acre. Total number of units that were required under the MBTA zoning district state law, the town of East Bridgewater is considered an abutting district, which, since we don't have a station within our town. That means 10% of the housing unit, the number of housing units we have to allow for is based on a number that's 10% of the housing units in the town. That number right now is slightly over 5,000. 10% of that would be 500. So at least from a theoretical standpoint, we would expect potentially to see zoning districts in the northern end of town, near the Whitman line, and in the downtown area, roughly off of Spring Street, in behind Route 18, including part of the downtown area. Each of those areas to allow somewhere in the range of 250 housing units. And we will take a look at the map at our next meeting. We'll be able to show the map on the screen so that the map can be seen on the televised meeting. The plan again would be to have some, our deadline to get that adopted in the town under state law is 2024. So the plan would be that we follow our normal process, have a public hearing, probably multiple public hearings, or maybe just public sessions, maybe would be more appropriate prior to the actual public hearing, so everyone can understand what we're trying to do and why we're trying to do it. And then we would go forward at the annual town meeting. I think that should cover it.
Thank you, Mr. Gardner. The only other thing that's left on the agenda is with respect to the past due taxes. And I don't know if there are any further comments on that. In looking at the bylaw that East Bridgewater currently has, it's pretty much, I think, mirrors in many respects what the state law says. So I think last time we had talked a little bit about exceptions, who would grant them, and so forth, and I'm just personally wondering what the latitude is that we have to do that. It seems to me that the only exception that's available is something where the town treasurer has entered into an agreement for payment, and that other hardships and so forth might not necessarily be something that could effectively be granted.
So one of the things, I'm going to try and find some stuff from other towns that have addressed this issue. I have some personal history here in several other towns that I've tried to help friends out. The way our law is currently written, in my opinion, is 100% unacceptable, because it has no clear way to waiver out hardship cases.
Right.
Now, there's hundreds of these in many towns, and part of the problem I see here is I've seen in one town alone, 5 houses go to auction that the town had taken for taxes. It started way off at the beginning where they fell behind in taxes. The town wouldn't issue them permits to upgrade the houses. 3 of those 5 houses were owned by people in nursing homes.
Yeah. I think between estates
doesn't
and
work.
nursing homes, right, I agree.
That doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it becomes confiscatory.
Yeah.
Now, there has to be a waiver system that takes into account a reasonable hardship situation, especially with individual landowners and individual homeowners. On the commercial side, it's a different thing, in my opinion. But a perfect example was a piece of property I was aware of in North Attleboro that I was looking at on behalf of someone who knows I know planning stuff. It was owned by a woman who was in a nursing home. They wanted to sell the property as a subdivision. The town had a tax lien on it. They wouldn't accept the subdivision filing. Now, that's illegal. Because the subdivision filing in a tax situation is supposed to be done by the planning board holding the subdivision plans after the subdivision is approved. We're not allowed under state law to not accept the filing, regardless of what town council says. If we have a legitimate filing for a subdivision, we have to accept it. State law says we can hold the subdivision plans until back taxes are paid. That prevents a situation where people lose their property for what could be a very valuable subdivision for what amounts to payment of a small amount of taxes. So we need to find a way to fix our bylaw to have a clear waiver section in it.
To the extent that's doable, I absolutely agree with you. Okay. Other matters. Anybody have anything else that you want to bring up this evening? As I did indicate, I had passed out a proposed
Yes.
update to the site plan approval bylaw. I
Yeah.
commend that to your late-night reading sometime.
Sure.
And we'll have further discussion and hopefully get it to the point of something that could be submitted for approval in the appropriate fashion. Anything else to come before the board this evening?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Motion is made.
I'll second that one.
Motion is made by Mr. Gardner to adjourn the meeting at 8:13, seconded by Mr. Lawler. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is so adjourned.
Our work here is done.
Yes.